This is Hannibal back here from thehannibaltv.com with a daily wrestling news update. Anyone that's seen Raw, by the way, feel free to let me know in the comments how it was. I had zero interest in watching it. I think Bailey against Liv Morgan in a cage match was the main event. Not Bailey, sorry, Becky Lynch, who I believe lost the title to Liv Morgan at the pay-per-view on the weekend. But let's get into the Mike Tyson news. He apparently suffered an ulcer on a plane ride on Sunday while boarding a flight to Miami. Apparently, he became nauseous and dizzy, and the plane was delayed. But apparently, the plane was delayed a lot longer than necessary due to an unrelated air conditioning issue. But the interesting thing about this is he's supposed to fight Jake Paul next or in July, basically. It's coming up very soon. So will he use this as one of the excuses, or is this serious, or are they even downplaying it by saying it was just an ulcer? I recently saw him on a podcast that wasn't done too long ago, and he was like fully out of it on heavy weed and mushrooms, like fully out of it. And I'm not saying that that's like actually I've seen about a lot of recent podcasts under the influence of various things, which you can do whatever you want. I'm not holding anything against that for him for taking hallucinogenic stuff and relaxing stuff. He's probably in a lot of pain from over the years, and if it gets him off the heavier drugs, even better. But Jake Paul is like in his 20s, might do stuff here and there at parties and stuff, but he's not doing stuff in the frequency that Mike Tyson is doing it. So you would have to say if that boxing match between Jake Paul and Mike Tyson goes long at all, it's going to be in Jake Paul's favor. But either way, they're both going to make a ton of money on it. No one's really going to lose unless Mike Tyson gets seriously injured, because I know originally they were going to do it in headgear. Which headgear, by the way, you can still get concussions from headgear. It prevents um, cutting more than anything. You can, depending on what headgear you're wearing, you could still feel punches and see stars off of punches 100%. I've experienced it. But yeah, it's going to be interesting how this develops. Mark Henry confirmed that he's been released from AEW today. They initially hired him 3 years ago for Rampage to be a commentator, which apparently he wasn't good enough to last very long as a commentator, but they kept him around doing what? I don't know, because he hasn't appeared in seemingly years on AEW TV, but he still had a contract. So it's not really a surprise they released him. I mean, maybe he seemed like a dick to me when I met him. So I don't have much sympathy for him. He's had a really good career. I'm not saying I don't respect him, but he was very high strung. Any conversations I had with him, and he's lucky. Was I mean, he's an amazing athlete, but he was paid to train. Had this massive 10-year contract that he didn't do well at the start with in WWE, but because he had such a long contract, they stuck with it, got him over. Then he ends up getting this amazing deal with AEW, which again, some people have speculated, was Tony Khan too afraid to release him earlier, or they just wanted to let him wait out his contract. The one thing I would do differently if I had a guy like Mark Henry on contract, I'd at least use him for something instead of just quietly releasing him. I know he's not very like open to putting people over from what I get of his personality, but you have him under contract all these years. You don't really have that many homegrown over stars. Why don't you have him put somebody over, or at least beat him up backstage, or something, rather than just have him sit home collecting paychecks? Raw tonight from Savannah, Georgia had 300 pre-sold. Let's look up right now what the main event result was, if, unless somebody wrote it for me. First, I'll check if someone wrote it. The one interesting thing was, I believe Jay agrees with me about Mark Henry. Like, why keep these guys under contract and do nothing? At least use them in backstage segments. I just don't. It's like they don't. I think maybe Tony Khan just wants to do everything himself and just has way too many loose ends and forgets about people. I really don't know, but they've had. I'm not saying that you couldn't do stuff with Mark Henry. Yes, he didn't do well as a commentator, but like there could have been other stuff that he could have been doing that would have helped build AEW over the past 2+ years that we haven't seen him. Sorry. We are live. Let's see what the Raw results was from Becky Lynch. See, what makes me wonder, if Becky Lynch lost the title, is she gonna go to AEW? Did Becky Lynch win or lose? All of these friggin' sites these days have like make it so complicated to just see a result. Oh, Braun Strowman returned. This is the extent of my watching Raw. You guys are watching it live with me. Let's go. Well, we may as well go over the results at this point. There was a segment for Gunther, Braun Strowman versus JD McDonough with Finn Balor. Anyways, it doesn't even seem like there was oh, Braun Strowman won that. Authors of Pain, I guess they're still around. I haven't heard much from them lately. They beat the Creed brothers. Good for them. Good for them, big guys. Rey Mysterio with the LWO versus Carlito. And Rey Mysterio won. By the way, I've wrestled Carlito, and I will also beat him. Otis versus Bronson Reed. Otis, for a big fat guy, he's at least entertainment. Why is it so hard to read the fucking results on this? Pardon my language. They don't really make it clear on the site I'm looking at it at who won that one. I'm gonna just hope that it was Otis that won. So here's the steel cage match: Liv Morgan versus Becky Lynch. Winner and still women's champion Liv Morgan. Does this mean Becky Lynch, whose contract is up soon, is going to go to AEW? Yes, I agree. Tyson needs to end it early. Hannibal, Raw report. That's the extent of how much I want to watch Raw. But I do find it very interesting. What tells me, as a wrestling behind the scenes person, that like Becky Lynch has not had that long of a title run. What it tells me is she either has not signed a new contract or she is going to AEW. One of those two. I know Seth Rollins did re-sign, and ideally you would want the family together unless Becky Lynch got a better offer than Seth, or Becky Lynch thinks she could do better in AEW. One thing I will say is Becky Lynch has more of an upside to, if I were recruiting it for AEW, I think Becky Lynch would make more of a difference than Seth Rollins, because Becky Lynch is just better known. By the way, Sasha Banks did win the women's title. I saw this on Twitter. Thanks to whoever posted that on Twitter. She celebrated with Bailey, even though Bailey's in WWE. I wonder if Bailey's going to get heat. Like, there is a history of wrestling people being vengeful for posing with people from other companies. I wonder if she'll get any behind the scenes heat for doing stuff like this, or if she just doesn't care. Because I just think the biggest story out of Raw is, does this mean Becky Lynch is not re-signed? Could she go to AEW? They do have a way overloaded roster, but Becky Lynch would be a hit to WWE because they promoted the hell out of her for years now. Other than that, I wish everybody a good night. I did a good back training session tonight as I prepare for the June 29th Napanee Schools Out Slam, where I'm going to make my return to the ring. As Hannibal, I have decided I will be returning to the ring as Hannibal. The Blood Hunter will still be focus of the Blood Hunter movie, which I do want to finish filming this year. Whether with the original people or in a slightly different form on my own. But I'm going to get that done. But the Blood Hunter is just going to be a movie character from here on out. Hannibal, when I go back in the ring, will just be Hannibal because people around here like me. And why be a heel? It's a good gimmick for the US and stuff, but why be a heel here when people like me around here? It's going against the grain. Not a good idea. Have a wonderful night, everybody.